So what does it mean to be accountable? In the next few minutes, you're going to become an expert. What does it mean to be accountable? This is something that I think we need to contrast with responsibility and blame. Actually, you know what? When I looked up the definition for responsibility, this is when I was writing my book, Pathological Positivity, I found that one of the definitions of responsibility is blame. Who's to blame for this? Who's responsible for this? So let's take a little different approach as we talk about accountability and comparing it to responsibility. It's not about being to blame. It has nothing to do with blame or fault. For me, accountability is being responsible for what you say, for example, that what you say matches what happens. That's also a definition for integrity. I've shared this story before that I think is a really good example of what we're talking about here. Have you ever done this when you're out driving and you get lost in your thoughts and you go right past your exit? I hope I'm not the only one who does this. I did this once in southern Utah. I'm going to see a client who lives right in the last town in southern Utah before you cross the border. And I knew that I had missed my exit when I saw that big colorful sign, Arizona welcomes you. Arizona? This is not even the state I had planned on being in. This is not what I had in mind. How often does that show up in life when it's like, oh, this is not what I had in mind? You know, if you go through a bankruptcy or a divorce or some kind of job disruption, not what I had in mind. Okay, right. Here's the accountability piece. I looked down, and guess whose hands I saw on my steering wheel? See, that bites a little bit. When we acknowledge and take accountability for where we are, we acknowledge that our own hands are on the wheel. That can sting because I'm here because I drove here. It was my behaviors and my choices that brought me to this point. Again, we're not taking blame. That's a victim mentality. It's not like, oh, I'm to blame for all my misery. No, it's like, my hands are on the wheel. Oh, and the bad news is also the good news. Because if my hands are on the wheel, what can I do? Turn it, steer it, take it somewhere. This is huge. I've got the power now to steer it. The victim mentality doesn't allow for that because we're constantly blaming or trying to shift that accountability or responsibility to someone other than ourselves. So swallow hard, see your own hands on that steering wheel of your life, and now let's take it somewhere. There's 4 accountability questions that will help you to wrap your head around this. So just think of something that's going on in your life or an incident that happened or something that's got you a little tipped over. So an example might be a business failure. All right, those happen, right? Let's just use that as an example for our discussion here today as we talk through these 4 accountability questions. Question number 1, how is this about me? How is this about me? Now, acknowledge. We'll be right up front about this. Everything that happens in your life has both a personal and an impersonal component. We've got both. How is this about me is where you take all of the personal stuff and put it into perspective. So, if it's a business failure, for example, you tried to start up a business, it crashed and burned, which is a high percentage of startup businesses, by the way. How is this about me? Well, it is me. It is me. It happened to me. It's my life. It's my paycheck. It's my business. It is me. It's easy to take that personally because it is you. But that's where it ends. Beyond the fact that it is you, which is the personal part, how is it about you? Well, it probably isn't about you. It's about market conditions. It's about how that business interfaces with those market conditions. It's about a lot of factors that are outside of your control. It's about statistics on startup businesses. It's about a lot of things, and it happens to a lot of different kind of people. The fact that it was you makes it personal. So question number one, how is this about me? It's really intended to get us to the point where we can see that it's not very much about me. It is me because it's me, but it's not about me. This kind of stuff happens to good people all the time. It's not about any of those things that your brain comes up with, to explain it. Things like, well, I'm just inadequate. Well, I just suck at everything. I can't do this. No, it's not about that. True accountability is simply seeing your part and letting it be that. Which leads us right into question number 2 of our accountability questions. How did I create this? This is where I see my hands on the wheel. And it's not asking how am I to blame for this thing happening. It's simply how did I create this? What movements of my own hands and feet brought me to the point where this has happened? So there's a subtle distinction there, and an important one, where we don't take on the blame. It's not a victim game. That's not what we're talking about. It's about how did my actions bring me to this point? What choices did I make that had me show up in this space? Without judging it as a bad space. We have to see our own part in order to take full accountability for where we are. How did I create this? So in the example that we've already established here, a business failure. How did I create that? Started a business, right? Sometimes that's it. And then statistics and market conditions kind of take over from there. I started a business. I chose to put some time and energy into creating this thing. That's my part. That's how I created this. Doesn't mean that you're responsible for the failure. Although, what part did you have to play in that? Were you paying attention to the numbers? Were you watching the market conditions? Were you paying attention to how to best serve your clients and customers? All of these questions are pretty good questions, and it can help you to hone in on that same question. What's my part? So questions 1 and 2 are all about what's my part? How is this about me? And how did I create this? Okay, let's move on to number 3. What can I learn from this? I love this question because it acknowledges the immense value of every experience that we have. It was not a waste. Your business failed. Okay, what can you learn from this? Do you see how useful that question is? What if you wanted to start another business? Do you think something that you learned from this one can help you when you get to that one? Oh yeah. Yeah, it's called knowledge. It's called wisdom. And you can extract that from every experience. Try this on. Wisdom is knowledge combined with experience. So this experience powers up your knowledge and turns it into wisdom if you allow it to do that. What can I learn from this? Powerful accountability question. Let's go to accountability question number 4. What's my commitment now? What's my commitment now? Given everything that I've learned from this experience and understanding what my part is, what's my commitment to myself and other people as I move forward from here? This is a great way to set a course for where you go from here. Remember, the good news from your hands are on the wheel is that you can steer it. You can take it somewhere. That's awesome. And that's what question 4 is getting at. What's my commitment now? So rather than getting stuck into that victim mode where we blame ourselves, we beat ourselves up for the failed business or for the failed relationship or whatever it is, these 4 accountability questions help us to see what our part of it is and move forward from here with power and purpose. Okay, now that you're the expert on accountability, how about you click the share button right down below and share this with someone else?